hope everybody is doing well. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And again, I hope that you are motivated, you feel the love of each episode, and you're inspired. Because, life kind of gets in the way, and everybody has an inspirational story. Even if it's just a little mild story, you still have a story to tell. So I hope that you're telling everybody about what makes you tick and what makes you motivated in life. All right, so I did find a quote that pretty much summarizes our next guest. It also summarizes her life and also the inspiration behind everything. So, this is a very short quote, and then I'm going to explain it a little bit. So, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I told you it was very simple because our next guest definitely knows how to make lemonade. Okay, so this phrase is a proverbial phrase and used to encourage optimism and positive can do attitude in the face of adversity or misfortune. Lemon suggests sourness or difficulty in life. Making lemonade is turning them into something positive or desirable. Again, our next guest definitely knows how to make the sweetest lemonade. And and I shall say in Texas we love our sweet tea and we love our sweet lemonades. All right, so Kelly Tuttle joined the Head Injury Survivors Club in 2015, the night another car pulled in front of her as she was driving. It wasn't until 3 months later that she realized something was seriously wrong. Kelly's traumatic brain injury, or what we call TBI, marked the beginning of a new life and personal journey of self rediscovery. A neurology nurse practitioner, Kelly has a front row seat to observe patients struggling with many of the same things she experienced in her recovery. She strives to share her coping strategies and tools and help them continue to work and study while they heal. And that is so important, especially when you are healing, is to get up and move. But I'm not going to talk about it. I want her to explain everything that she has gone through and her inspiration behind it. So I am going to bring her on. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me. That intro was awesome.
Oh, well, good. I am so excited to have you because whenever, I was reading your book, I'm just going, this is such a practical thing. And I am so excited to hear about your inspirational story and how you got up and said, I'm not going to let this TBI get me down. I'm going to make lemonade out of it, right? Because a lot of people, it's very difficult to go through the sensory issues that you have and everything that goes along with it. So go ahead and tell us about yourself before the accident. So, what were you? I know you were a nurse. So, what were you striving to do?
So, prior to my car accident, I had been working as a cardiology nurse practitioner, and I was very energetic. I was very involved in my profession. I had been a past president of the nurse practitioner group in the area that I live in, and very supportive of mentoring new nurse practitioners and new nurse practitioner students. And I was a avid martial arts practitioner and was prepping for my third degree black belt and my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Wow. That just tells you how active you were. And actually, and I know I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit and we'll go back, but because of TBI injuries, don't you feel like that type of exercise also helps heal the brain?
Oh yeah, there's research that has shown that studying martial arts, whether that be Tai Chi or karate, lowers your risk of dementia later on in life.
Maybe I need to start that over again because because
Well,
no,
yoga too.
I was very active in yoga and I need to get back to it. And it's just one of those things that I've got to put one foot in front of the other and do it, that kind of thing. Okay, so go ahead and continue with your story.
Okay, so then I was driving home from work one evening, and unfortunately, a teenage driver misjudged the movement of traffic and pulled out in front of me, and I T-boned her. It was a terrible
Oh,
accident. And I thought,
yeah.
oh, you know what? I've been hit hard before, studying karate. I'm going to shake this off and keep going on with life. And I ended up going to work the next day. I had a friend drive me, and my colleagues noticed there was something wrong. I was not talking right. My personality was not myself, those type of things. And they insisted that I see a doctor the next day, and which I did. I saw my general practitioner was diagnosed at the time with a concussion. I left the office thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to take a couple weeks off and then I'm going to get back into life. And I did. I tried. I struggled. I struggled to get back into life. I continued trying to push through my karate training. I was finding that I was short of breath like 2 minutes into working out when I could have worked out for several hours without an issue. I ended up failing my black belt karate third degree black belt test because of the symptoms of the concussion, the head injury, issues with memory, the brain and the body just not connecting. I'd tell my foot to move forward and it would step back, those kind of changes. And then, I mean, I was so persistent in trying to get back into life that I went back to work full time, and I was growing tired while driving back and forth from work because one of the common symptoms after traumatic brain injury or a concussion is cognitive fatigue and or neurofatigue, also known as neurofatigue. And I fell asleep behind the wheel and drove off the road. Fortunately, woke up quick enough to slam on the brakes and not hit a tree. And so
Oh my
I
gosh.
still still didn't register that there was something wrong, um, and had met a colleague who was a neurology nurse practitioner at the time, and she asked me, "Well, how are you doing with your concussion?" Because she knew that sometimes not everyone recovers within a month or so. And I'd
Hmm.
mentioned, well, I did fall asleep behind the wheel, and this almost happened. She was like shocked. And she's like, oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
You need to go back and talk to your doctor. You need to ask for these get a brain CT scan. You need to see a physical medicine rehab doctor. I was like, what's a physical medicine and rehab doctor? Well,
Right.
I later found out there's a difference. So there's neurologists. We all know there's neurologists, right? And then
Hmm.
there's physical medicine rehab doctors. Neurologists help people treat brain diseases like Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy. But a PMR doctor, a physical medicine rehab doctor, helps people after strokes and brain injuries. They help with
Oh.
injuries to the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spine. And once I met up with the PMR doctor, my recovery road changed. I started going onto the right path and was guided to the right people.
And let's go ahead and bring this out. With your book, After the Crash, okay, when you wrote the book because explaining, and I think it's wonderful. It's a great resource for people, not only people that go through a traumatic brain injury, but also for their families. And that's one thing that you do talk about are the different doctors that you see, because a lot of people just don't know. And you do a fantastic job explaining,
Thank you.
about what each doctor, just like how you explained it, what each doctor is all about and who you should see. Because a lot of people just don't know. They tend to go doctor to doctor to doctor.
Right. And our healthcare system is really complicated to navigate.
Hmm.
And with that in mind, this is how I like it to explain it to my patients is that they often get frustrated that they can't just see one doctor, one provider for their problem. And
Hmm.
I tell them, well, the thing is that the brain is so complicated and there's so many facets that can go wrong that it actually takes different specialists to help you piece together the whole puzzle of your brain's functioning. And so then I go into, the speech therapist helps with your
Mhm.
cognitive strategies to support your focus and your attention, your memory. The psychiatrist helps you with the mood changes. Psychologists will help you with your personality changes, your changes in your role in your family. Um, who else is out there? I talk about, the neurotherapist who helps you with your balance and checks your vision, to see if you're having symptoms related to eye tracking. And then, of course, a physical therapist, because sometimes head injuries come with other injuries, whether that's a
Right.
neck or a back. Or it could be if you broke your leg, you're going to have problems with dizziness after a head injury and a broken leg because the alignment of the body is off and the connection with the brain and the body is off. You need all those pieces for the whole healing.
See, and I find it interesting too that you were a nurse, okay? And the things that you're going through, you understand it, but it's something, it's almost it's very interesting because it's like, how could I explain this? Like when a doctor has to go through something, and like if they specialize in something and they need a specialist in that same area, it's almost like, the universe is giving you the opportunity so that you can educate people about your injury. Okay, does that make sense? So as a
Right.
nurse, that's your specialty. And so, it almost gave you the opportunity to turn this accident around and say, you know what, I'm a nurse, I understand the medical procedures, I understand everything that somebody will need in this type of injury. And I know that working at the public school system, we had a lot of children who were in high school, especially high school, who would have car accidents and have a TBI. And either that, or I knew a friend whose son was playing hockey. And like you said, they don't really know the symptoms until like maybe months later of what all the symptoms are going to happen, or all the things like the sensory, which is very interesting about the sensory of the light or the sound, the audio. And I know that you talk about in your book the different symptoms. And another thing that I found interesting was your personality. Can you just kind of describe about what happened with you about your symptoms, not only personality, but also the sensory?
Well, are you okay? Well, lots of things change, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
think of putting it in a linear fashion for you. Um,
Right.
so before my car accident, I was very like on the go, no time for being foo-fooey or taking care of the home. I was on the go, out seeing my friends, training in martial arts, traveling. And then after the car accident, I became more, of course, as you're healing, things slow down. And as I was healing, I did have a moment where I had gone out onto my deck to have a cup of coffee, and I had my recovery journal with me. And I decided to write all the things that I had lost because of the car accident, on one side of the list. And then on the other side of the list, I wrote all the things that I had gained from the car accident.
Mhm.
And so the things that I had gained was a desire for a more simple, slower pace in life. I became more of a person that did stop and smell the roses and see the
Mhm.
roses and the details of the roses and the petals. Um, I became more into fashion. I loved makeup, dressing up, jewelry, accessories. I got into adult coloring at the recommendation
Mhm.
of a counselor. which brought out the artistic side of me, which had been totally
Right.
ignored before because I was more left brain, planning, organizing,
Mhm.
accomplishing goals, those kinds of things. And I also had to learn to be patient with my recovery and patient with myself and have a really good sense of humor about myself. And I think that made me a better person. And I like the new me, even though it was a terrible thing that happened.
Mhm.
I'm not unhappy that it happened.
Right. Right. Awesome. And that is such an inspiration right there. And okay, so let's kind of back up about your journal. And you do talk about how important, because a lot of people will go, "Oh, yeah, right, I'm not going to write my journal." So kind of
Exactly.
explain the different ways that you use a journal when you're going through the recovery.
So I really try to encourage my patients to start journaling at the beginning when they first get hurt. And the reason why is it serves as an external memory because after a traumatic brain injury, your memory isn't so good. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this way they can track their symptoms. And then once they track their symptoms, then they can think and look back and go, well, what triggered that symptom? So
Mhm.
say I was at work and I got really grumpy and irritable and tired, and I look back and I realize, oh, I worked all day long under this fluorescent light. Now
Mhm.
I know the fluorescent light is triggering my fatigue and irritability. And so now I can think about tools that I can use to compensate, whether that would be requests that the light be turned off over my desk, put a light filtering cover over my desk and the screen of my computer, or wear dark glasses to block some of the light
Mhm.
out. The journal helps you with that. The other thing is that as you heal, your symptoms do change. As one symptom resolves, some symptoms will rear their ugly head.
Oh.
And it's just because the other symptom was more demanding. For example, of myself and my what I've seen with my patients, if they have an injury such as a neck injury or a shoulder injury, they will focus on that and trying to get that to heal. And then once that heals and they go back to work, then they realize, oh, I'm having difficulty finding words and speaking in front of people, and I'm having difficulty remembering this and that. So you see how that plays out. And if you're writing this in your journal, you can see this transitioning and you can meet those symptoms with strategies that maybe you will either need to seek treatment from a specialist from, or a strategy that maybe you read about that you now need that you didn't need before. It's
And I
just really
absolutely, yeah.
it's just really good at unlocking what's really going on in your brain and what your brain is asking for.
I absolutely love that. And I think it's good too because when you go to the doctor, you have everything written down right there. And it's not a guessing game. And the doctor can actually analyze what you wrote down. And I like it also whenever you set a schedule and you set reminders and again it's all writing everything down so that it doesn't bring that anxiety when you were running late, because I know your anxiety just peaked up through the roof.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When that I still use a journal, but my journal really helped me stay out of a lot of trouble. It also it helped me with creating packing lists of things that you need to take when you go to work. I mean, I couldn't remember that on my own initially.
Mhm.
It reminded me of things that I needed to pack for the next day at work. And I do have in my book how to arrive on time to a scheduled appointment or work or school. That worked for me because I could not in the beginning get my brain wrapped around showing
Right.
up somewhere on time. And a lot of that has to do with when you do have a brain injury, you move slower.
Mhm.
It takes longer to get dressed. It takes longer to get ready. Your memory doesn't remind you of the things that you need to take on that trip. You also can struggle with time management, meaning somebody with a healthy brain, their brain can keep track of time. When you have a brain injury, that function doesn't work as well, and you will lose track of time. And if you don't use external tools such as setting an alarm and writing notes telling you, okay, I need to be at this place at 3, that means I need to be in the car by 3, by 2:50,
Mhm.
10 minutes, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
Then if you don't have those tools, your brain will just let you forget what you were supposed to do, and then you're off floating around the house, getting nothing done.
Right. Sounds like me. And I love how you say that you need to write it down because a lot of people will think, oh, I can use like my iPad or my computer. But if you have that sensitivity to light, then technology is not going to help you. But when you write things down, and it's on paper and it's not going anywhere, to me, it's much easier and much more efficient.
Right. So, as you know, as an educator, that when you write something down, your that's two ways of committing something to your memory. You're committing the thought, and then you're
Mhm.
writing it down, which also creates a memory for your brain, right? And my thing about going old school with paper and notes and notebooks early into the recovery of your brain injury is that devices such as smartphones and iPads emit blue light, and that has can cause worsening of neurofatigue, and it's also harder for the eyes to focus on an iPad or an iPhone rather than on very eye-friendly piece of paper with contrasting text. So in my book, I do recommend that people do early on in the recovery and in the middle of the recovery to just use these old school tools. And then when your neurofatigue is better controlled, you're able to stay awake after getting home from work or school, not needing to take a nap, then you can pull out those smart devices and use those memory tools and apps that they offer.
And I love that you bring that up in your book that you need to be so patient with yourself. When you get tired, you need to listen to that body, take that self care. And I love that you bring up the adult coloring because I love to do that in front of the TV after a difficult day. And I love to get my adult coloring book. And I do the medallions, the different colors that you can use
Yeah.
on the mandalas, and I use my little colored pencils. So I absolutely love that. And then one more thing about your book is I like how each chapter at the very end you summarize it. It's almost like a checklist that helps organize other people's thoughts, and I absolutely love that. So, if you had an inspiration, okay, and this could be over anything, because we know that you like to make sweet lemonade. But what would be an inspiration that you could tell somebody?
So what I tell a lot of my patients is, and what I have learned on my own was that you have to let go of the past, that you have to let go of the things that you lost, and you need to embrace what you have gained. You need to be able to look and see what you gained. If you are not able to let go of the past, grieve, go through the grieving
Mhm.
of the things that you have lost, and get help if you need help with that. Then you're not going to be able to move forward by seeing the things that you have gained. And you're not going to be able to sit down and get in touch with your new core values and passions, and therefore get to know the new you and your new brain.
I absolutely love that. Oh my gosh. And yeah, and living in the present, forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to go through that grieving process. And and I think that stands true not only for TBI, but that's overall life. Sometimes you got to forgive yourself for choosing one thing instead of another thing and then hating yourself for it. And so that just rings true for everybody. I think that is awesome. So inspirational. So, is there anything else that we did not talk about that you wanted to talk about before we do the will?
Oh, well, yes. I would like to emphasize that everyone take every head injury seriously.
Mhm.
And the other thing is I would recommend that you always take a trusted friend or family member to each healthcare
Mhm.
visit that you have, because they are going to help advocate for you. They're going to help remind you of things that you may have forgotten to report to your provider. And they work as your extra brain that you can utilize for their memory when yours isn't working as well.
Absolutely. And like you said, and I think, I would love someone to come with me because you don't really hear what the doctor has to say because you're just trying to follow along and it's really hard to remember all the information that your doctor tells you. So that is
Exactly.
wonderful advice. Wonderful advice. All right, are you ready for the last question?
Sure.
Let's bring it on. All right, no stress or anything, okay? All right, here we go. I'm
All
going to go ahead
right.
and spin it. Oh.
Oh, me in 5 years from now?
Yeah, so I know I love this. We talked about being present and now we're talking about so what do you want to do and where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, I really hope to be creating social media content to get the word out about traumatic brain uh, traumatic brain injury awareness. Something where I'm getting this information out, because it can be hard for people to find, and whether that is through my social media content, a newsletter through my website, or a podcast, or speaking engagements, whatever I can to help people learn more about brain injuries, be more aware of them, how impacting they can be on someone's life, and the specialists and tools you can use while you're healing.
Absolutely love this, Kelly. Love it, love it, love it. So where
Thank
can they
you.
find you?
You can find me at Kelly Tuttle, that's TUTTLE.org. That's my website. And then my book can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's on Apple, iTunes, and on Audible,
And I
which
did listen to a little bit. Yeah.
I
No,
was
is
gonna say,
that
which
you?
I'm really excited about that it's on Audible, because after traumatic brain injury or any brain
Mhm.
injury, it can be really hard to read. And so that was really
Yeah.
important that I
Yeah.
got it on Audible for my readers.
So, so was that you or is that somebody else reading it orally?
That was me reading it. So you're gonna have
Okay,
to
that's
put
what.
up with my speech challenges.
Oh, oh, but it's wonderful. You have such a soothing voice. So
Thank you.
I think it'll be fabulous. And you know what, too? It's your book. So it's going to mean so much more to you. So you know what to emphasize or what not to emphasize. So I think it makes experience in the journey so much better for your listener, for that way. So, well, Kelly, thank you so much for coming on. You are such an inspiration, and I love that you're getting out information and knowledge about TBI because a lot of people who cannot afford the doctor or cannot afford this information, they're able to get this information through social media and from a person who has a medical background.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you. And everybody, thank you so much for listening. And get out, make that lemonade, turn. And I always tell everybody be grateful what comes into your life. A lot of times it is limes, it's lemons that are very sour. But look at it and say, you know what? How can I make a big difference? How can I turn my life into that sweet lemonade? I just love that quote. I'm glad I picked it for this week. So
It
we
was
will
really
see
good.
you.